What's up, guys? Happy Thursday. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. That's RM Korea. It's October 10th here, 10/10/2024 here, obviously. Another Thursday here. Obviously, we got some Thursday night football here, both in the NFL and college. But we're going to do a quick recap of how we did Monday, Monday and Tuesday for me. First, for me, 101 day. First, with the Saints, I said I was a lean. I wasn't really, too heavily invested in this game. And it was one of those weird games. Obviously, you look at the stat sheet and it's just pointing toward one direction, and you can just make the claim that the Chiefs definitely dominated this game, and the score should have been a lot more, but obviously Mahomes not having a passing touchdown, which was obviously very weird for him. Obviously, I think he what hasn't. I think he's had a passing touchdown, and I think like 40 of his last 50 before that third Monday night game. So just a weird script. Obviously the Saints, were, bend don't break, but their offense just could not do anything. Derek Carr, he got injured, and so obviously, it was tough to see, first, the starter, who you're kind of depending on in the spot, and then obviously you got to bring in a rookie at this point. They brought in Jake Haener, obviously the guy from Fresno State, and he did it. I'd say he, in terms of the position he was in, I say he did the best he could do, as the emergency quarterback. And now they're obviously going to be starting Spencer Rattler in place of Jake Haener. So obviously, now we're seeing, Rattler now, who was drafted, from this from the draft. It's going to be interesting to see what the Saints do in terms of their quarterback, since Carr is going to be out for a little while. But in terms of the spread, like I said, it was a lean, but I don't like betting against the Chiefs in prime time. So that, like I said, that was definitely the Chiefs, obviously, in terms of how they game plan for it. Like I said, Steve Spagnuolo, one of the best defensive coaches in the league, if not the best, just because he always plans for opposing quarterbacks. So that was a tough loss there. But like I said, it was a lean anyway. But obviously, the winner of the week was FIU on Tuesday. If you guys tailed me, I also gave that as a first half as well, and both hit. So I'll technically take a 2-0 day there for me. For FIU, I knew I was mostly just backing them. It was a weird game. I knew things were going to get interesting, on a Tuesday night. Things always get a little weird. And FIU, their offense was doing just enough. And that's what I was just kind of keying on. I thought their offense was going to make things interesting, with their kind of dual threat ability, and they're making things fun. Obviously, they tied that game late. So obviously, for the full game spread, that was a winner there, obviously, because, Liberty won by a touchdown in overtime, obviously. So, we didn't have to worry about the full game. And then first half, they were only up by a touchdown as well. So, we didn't have to worry about the full, because, FIU, I believe they were 10-point dogs for the first half as well. So, just back in FIU, obviously on the road on a weird Tuesday game. I was just more back and, make this game close. Like I said, let's get weird on a Tuesday, and that's what happened. So 2-1, I'll take that for my Tuesday. Ari, I know you had your one play on Monday, and I think that was a great winner for you.
Yep, the Tigers, they tied the series up at 1-1, now up 2-1. But obviously this was back on Monday, so this was game 2 when they were down 1-0. A crazy, crazy game. Scooble dealt 7 shutout, but so did Matthew Boyd in the Guardians bullpen, 0-0 into the 9th until Kerry Carpenter launched a 3-run home run off Clase to give the Tigers the lead and obviously the win after they closed out in the bottom of the 9th. So, I didn't think it'd be 0-0 for that long, obviously, but I was banking on Scooble dealing himself. And then Tiger just got the hit when it mattered the most in the 9th inning. There's a couple close instances. I think it was the 6th or 7th when they had 2 on, 2 outs, and it was a Stephen Kwan diving catch that almost looked like it hit the ground. They reviewed it. I guess it bounced, but where it bounced was into his glove, it looked like. So that was close. There was a couple of close calls as well earlier for runs, but there was good pitching, good defense for the first 8 innings until Carpenter came up against Clase and launched one to right field, and that was it for that game.
Yeah, you were mostly, like I said, you're mostly just backing Scooble, and he dealt like he would, and we didn't really expect Boyd to have the game that he did. But obviously, shout out to him. He had a great game, on Monday as well. Pitching, pretty much dealing throughout that Tigers lineup, and obviously it came down to Kerry Carpenter in the top of the 9th, a 2-run homer to take get the lead for the Tigers. So obviously it was a little bit of heroics, but obviously, got the win there. And now, obviously, you mentioned they got the win, I believe, yesterday, or yesterday. So now they're sitting 2 games ahead, 2-1. In a potential game 3 spot. Oh, excuse me, game 4 winner today. I believe game 4 is later today. So obviously playoff baseball, continuing today. So obviously that was a great winner for Ari on Monday. So 1-0 day for him. 2-1 day, 3-1 overall for Monday/Tuesday. But obviously we got Thursday. Oh boy, and we got Thursday night football. But obviously I'm not paying attention to that game at all for my mental health. So I'm gonna go to college football where I've been killing it. We're gonna go JMU first half -5.5. For obviously for most of you out there who use DraftKings, the app is down right now. So if you have other books, I encourage you to look elsewhere. But I've been seeing 5.5. If your book has 6 or 6.5, I would maybe stay away. But if you can still get 5.5 on your book, I definitely look there. I think JMU runs through this first half here today. Obviously, facing Coastal Carolina at home, and if you remember Coastal Carolina from earlier this year, Ari, there was a quarterback I remember. If you remember the name Ethan Vasco, yeah, I hate this dude. This guy is the definition of inconsistent because he can be absolute stinking against Virginia, who doesn't have a single defense in terms of their secondary, one of the worst defenses in the country. And then the next week against Old Dominion, he'll be a Heisman candidate, have 3 passing touchdowns, 367 yards, right? But in this spot on a short week going to JMU, I want to fade them through the first half here. JMU's defense, I think, is going to get after the run game, and that's where Coastal Carolina shines. They are a very ground-heavy team. They rank 33rd in the nation in terms of their ground game. But I think with JMU obviously having a better run defense, they rank, I think, top 35 in the nation in terms of run defense. That's going to force Vasco to throw. And you're talking about secondary as well. I would definitely think JMU secondary, is going to do just enough to stop Coastal Carolina through the air here. And I'm just going to take him first half. I do like the full game, but with that number kind of going in the opposite direction, I was hoping it would go up to 10, but now it's going down to 9. Maybe you can get some good value on JMU once it gets down. But I think JMU get out to a good lead here. I think this team is going to be back home, obviously, in the comfort, obviously, of their home. Last week, they had a bad loss on the road, but that was a bad matchup for them. UL Monroe, obviously, a very good defensive team, but their offense doesn't do much. So that's how they win those close games, with just their defense. And now they're facing Coastal Carolina team, which is kind of similar to UNC in a little bit in terms of how they're more of an offensive prowess team. Their defense is, ranking outside the top 100 in most to all categories. So I just think JMU with their ground game, with their quarterback, I think is Briere Alonzo. I forget his. I know it was Alonzo something, but he's definitely one of my radar guys in terms of the better dual threat quarterbacks in the nation. With his ability to, even though he's not the greatest of, in terms of being a strategic passer, his ground ability is what makes up for it in terms of getting out of, situations and, evading havoc. So I'm just going to take JMU first half here, -5.5 here. I think they get out to a good lead here in terms of the full game. I do lean JMU as well, but with that line going the wrong direction, I think you can get some value if it keeps going down and down, obviously all the way down to 9 on most books, as it depending on where you can, obviously, like I said, I mostly use DraftKings or, to look, but, it's down right now. So wherever your book is, obviously, I do like that first half spread for -5.5 for JMU tonight. I think they get out to a good lead with their run game, obviously against a weak Central Coastal Carolina offense that doesn't really get much going on defensively. Obviously, we saw how Virginia was able to really move that offense through the air and on the ground. Against Coastal Carolina on the road. I think this is a bad spot for them on the road to go to JMU. Obviously, and JMU obviously coming off that bad loss, a tough road loss. I like back teams coming back home, in the comfort of their home, obviously, in a better matchup here. Because obviously, like I said, UL Monroe, very more defensive team. And I think that was a bad matchup for JMU, obviously, to kind of give them that loss. I mean, here for JMU against a Coastal Carolina team that struggles defensively, I think, if they can just stop the run defensively and force Vasco to throw, I think it's going to be a tough game for that Coastal Carolina offense to get moving. So I'm taking JMU just through the first half here, -5.5. Like I said, if your book has 6 or 6.5, I would maybe lean towards staying away. I was looking at that 5.5 number first half, 5.5 is kind of a big number for me because obviously, you can use 2 field goals, you can use a touchdown, to get that spread. So I'm taking JMU first half -5.5. You're -115. The one and only play here for this Thursday night, even though I know there's another game that I'm not going to touch for my personal mental health here. Are you going to touch that game, or where are you looking at for this Thursday?
No, yeah, I'm going back to the Diamond. Tigers, Guardians. First 5 under, essentially, ever since the first inning of game 1, Guardians' bats have been completely dead. And the Tigers' bats have shown, a little more life than the last 2, but even them haven't been great. It's Tanner Bybee, who went, I think, 4 2/3, I want to say, in game 1 of this series, I think. And then it's not a scheduled target starter for the Tigers, but I think it's going to be somewhat of a bullpen game. With Scooble going game 5 if they were to lose this game. So either way, it's really just fading both bats. And I trust Bobby to do enough, and then the Tigers bullpen enough against the Cleveland bats that, have just not been. I mean, I don't even know if have they even scored a run since the first inning. Because
if you want a fun stat, Ari, I saw yesterday the Guardians have been scoreless in 20 straight innings.
Or yeah, because they scored the 6th inning in game 1. So since the 7th inning, in game 1, yeah, so 9-18, yeah. So obviously they're going to score eventually, but I'll take my chances with how cold they are. And then Bybee doing, his drop against the Tigers and we've seen a lot of, there's been some high scoring games, but in general, I feel like we've seen a lot of kind of lower scoring games in the playoffs, as we usually do, just because it's the playoffs and teams get a little more tight and pitchers start to show out more a little bit. So, with these 2 lineups, no matter who's really on the mound, I'll take my chances on, them to continue to show up on the mound and the bats continue to be not super intimidating, let's just say. Jose Ramirez has been, pretty bad as well in the series for Cleveland. And obviously he was their MVP, the regular season, obviously. So, so first 5 under for me in this game this afternoon.
Yeah, I was about to go on a whole rant about how Jose Ramirez, is a fake. This man is a stat patter. How he only does things in the regular season, but when postseason comes, he goes ghost. We have an APB out for Jose Ramirez because that's not Jose Ramirez at the plate. This man hasn't had a hit this entire series. Meanwhile, the Houston Astros have scored runs in back-to-back games against this Tigers team. You have the Guardians who haven't scored in 20 straight innings. I love that play for you, taking the first 5 under 3.5. You're backing Bybee as well. It's usually, you don't like to back the guy after the first start in the series, but you mentioned, the Tigers, their bats aren't, fully, swinging and, driving in a lot of runs as well. Obviously, it's been, this series has probably been the least scoring series. Obviously, a lot of pitching duels, and we kind of expected that, in terms of the Tigers, obviously, with Tariq Skubal and, you're more of their bullpen guys, and obviously the Guardians with their bullpen. Obviously, we know one of the better bullpens in baseball, but the Guardians bats obviously have been dormant, asleep, in hibernation, whatever you want to call it, for 20 straight innings. And I think 5 more is definitely a great look for you. Even though it's a bullpen game, you mentioned for the Tigers, it's more of a challenge for the Guardians to finally wake up and see what their offense can do, because their bats have been pretty much asleep. And obviously this is a winner go home game for them. So, we'll see how that goes for them. And obviously you mentioned the Tigers, obviously based on Bybee. Last time you mentioned with 4 2/3 in a lot of runs. I think he does some more success at home in this winner go home game for the Guards. So I love that play for you. First 5 under 3.5. Just backing both pitching staffs and defenses. Obviously, Tigers are the better defensive teams, not the best defensive team in baseball. So just backing kind of defense and pitching here in this series. Obviously, that's one of the big trend here. So Tigers Guardians first 5 under 3.5 for Ari tonight, and then my play in college football with JMU. First half -5.5. I know that line is at 5.5 for 6 on most books. I still all the way take it about 5.5. If that's 6, I like it for that push potential, but I'd probably take it up to there. Obviously, you can find both of these plays on our Twitter, AKP Sports Talk. We'll have this video and both of our plays posted momentarily. That's going to do it for this episode. That's Ari. I'm Kriya. Of course, we're going to be back tomorrow. We got a full slate. Honestly, you can say this is the best college football slate of the entire year. We got Ohio State, Oregon. We got the Red River rivalry. We got Penn State USC. We got K-State Colorado. We got so many big-time matchups on Saturday. And tomorrow we're going to break down our best bets for that. And, of course, we got some Sunday football. Of course, we're going to have our best bets. And, of course, we got another international game, Jags and Bears going to London. I think the Jags, I think, are contemplating moving there at this point with how much
I think they're playing back-to-back, aren't they, in London?
I thought to say, I'm pretty sure the Jags are just going to stay there because I'm pretty sure they are playing back-to-back in London. So I think this is just more of an experiment to send the Jags to London officially. We may call them the London Jaguars from now on, but that's all right. I'm Korea. We'll be back tomorrow to break down the weekend's football slate. Peace out. Have a great day.